Hello, and welcome to We Live for Saturday, your favorite college football podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike, and with me, as always, is your other co-host, John. John, how are you doing on this nice, bright, sunshiny day?
It's good, man. The humidity levels are low, relatively, anyways. So it's nice out. It feels like a good, solid summer day, which I am totally in favor of. And yeah, it's just no major complaints here. I was really busy the last few weeks. Things are starting to settle down, which is good. So I can kind of, kick back and relax and enjoy some time with the fiance and the dog and the house and just kind of relax for a bit. So it's good, man. And we're getting closer and closer to college football season. And
I know.
We're only like 10 days away for me. Anyways, I didn't do the early access, but 10 days away from college football 26. So that's exciting. It's kind of like, it's a nice little like precursor appetizer to the season. So you get to kind of enjoy that before.
Yeah, a little ramp up. We're like not even a month from media days, like 3 weeks from media days.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll always be interesting. I saw, man, it was I saw that the Gophers are picked 3 of my favorites in Darius Taylor, Anthony Smith, and Coy Parrish, all for media days, all showing up. So that'll be fun for me. I agree. I can't wait to hear what Coy says and whether he sticks to a script or just goes off the cuff at some point, like he has. Like, what was the game last year when afterwards one of the other players, I think it was Ja Joyner, was like, "Hey man, you can't say that."
Was it after USC?
I think it might have been, and he was like, "Hey man, you can't say that in an interview." And Coy was like, "What? What do you mean?"
You saw him sit back like, "Oh." Like,
yeah. And so it'll be fun if they let, I mean, obviously Coy is going to have to, stick to some sort of script, but like, I hope that he also has the chance to be himself a little bit too. Cause he's a fun guy to, him. And I went to an event last year that him and Darius Taylor were at, and the amount of confidence emanating from those two guys, like it made me feel more confident just being around them.
Yeah. No, I get it, man. And they're special. They're so special. And it's nice to see like Coy get the national recognition that he's starting to get, because he deserves it. I mean, the guy's a freaking star. Now,
led the Big Ten in interceptions as a true freshman, despite the fact that he didn't play like the first 3 games.
Yeah, the kid had 5 interceptions as a true freshman.
Yeah, 5 interceptions, and 2 of them were walk-offs, were game enders.
Yeah,
like goodbye, good night.
He's a star, man. So hopefully he can stay healthy and all that. But like again, I want to have a little bit of a complaint then if we're talking just a little bit about Gophers here. And I mentioned college football 26.
I will. Hey, let me say straight up, this is just so everyone knows, this is the UCLA and Rutgers preview.
Yes,
so we're going to be previewing UCLA and Rutgers in this episode, talking news like we always do. Mm-hmm. We just happen to get off on a little Gophers thing because the media day lineups just came out. Yeah. And there are fun lineups for other teams too. But anyway, go on with what you're saying.
Well, and I'm sure Minnesota's not alone in this, but like just looking at like the player ratings with in college football 26 for Minnesota, there are a number of players that are criminally underrated. I mean, the fact that Kerry Brown is like what? I think he's like I know 86 is probably high, but for Kerry Brown, that's way too low.
Kerry Brown's so good. Kerry Brown was legitimately more consistent than Coy Parrish last year.
Yeah, I mean, and then
he didn't have the high end flash plays to the same level, but he's a ball hawk in his own right.
Oh, absolutely.
He was a 4-star recruit too. Like we had a fight to get him. We had to fight hard to get both those guys.
Well, and then the other two that really stood out to me were Devin Eastern and Anthony freaking Smith, man. Like
I don't know if you're not high on Anthony Smith and you're not paying attention.
It's absurd. So, but again, I know Minnesota's probably not alone in any of that. I'm sure
that'll happen. And at least they update the rankings as they go. But like I looked at that, man. I thought it was from 2007, NCAA 2007, because I saw they had LSU as a top 10 defense.
Yep. I don't know, man.
LSU was one of the worst defenses in any of the 4 power conferences last year.
Well, and Minnesota's not even
them. And the year before that, too.
And Minnesota isn't even in the top 25, which is also absurd to me.
Which we were a top, 11 defense last year?
Yeah. And prior to, like, the year before, it was even, I don't know. Like, we've been top 5. We've
been
in
2023, we weren't. But since 2021, 21, 22, and 24, Minnesota was a top 10 to 15 defense every year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, anyway. whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, like you said, they do update them and change them as the season goes on. So
yeah.
But yeah, man. Aside from that, though, we got other news to talk about. I know we're going to talk a little bit about Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, and we're going to talk about Tony Pettiti finally coming out and addressing the public, like after a month or more, or I don't even know the last time he spoke to the public.
Man, he was like Gandalf the Grey, man. He was off the grid. He was just lying low. I don't know what was going on with that dude. But like, it's good to see him show up and do a major interview with Joel Klatt.
Yep. And he finally, he took some
Isn't it
shots.
funny that when Fox needed their own Kirk Herbstreit, they also found a somewhat annoying blonde guy to do it?
Yep.
I love Joel Klatt for the most part.
Yeah.
But like once in a while, he can be a little,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. But it's at least he came out and he said some stuff. He took a couple shots, but like in a much more demure, a little bit more controlled manner than Greg Sankey in the SEC.
Yeah.
So.
Well, of course he's gonna do it. We're the Midwest. We're polite.
Mm-hmm.
He's not gonna come out and just be brash. I wish he would be, but he's not gonna, because he's got to please a bunch of Midwesterners, and Midwesterners expect you to be polite at all costs, no matter what happens. It's the number one rule. You could be a serial killer in the Midwest, but if you have good table manners, people will be sympathetic to you.
Yeah.
Like, that's a real thing. I'm just saying.
I mean, there were people that were sympathetic to Jeffrey Dahmer, man.
Dude, that's a whole different podcast, John. All right, but hey, before we jump into the football stuff, John, we had to talk about some personal stuff before the pod. Should we let the people in on it? So, John and I have decided to have a little wager on this podcast, and we need all of you to help keep us accountable.
Yeah.
So, John, you what is your goal? So we both have a goal. We're going to try to reach this goal by the first game of the year, which I believe, or the first Big Ten game of the year.
Yeah.
Games of the year, which are on the Thursday of Labor Day weekend. I believe it's the 30th, but I'd have to double check that, of August.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my goal is to lose. I would love to lose 10 to 12 pounds by the time the season starts. And I think that's a feasible goal. I'm close enough to my goal weight, but it's just that last, 10, 12, that is really tough to get off.
Yep.
And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm feeling good, but I just want to get a little bit further. And so I think by the time, about 2 months from now, I think we can make it happen.
Yep. And I am a little further from my goal, so I'm trying to do 18 between now and the first game. So it's ambitious, but it's not insane. And that's the thing. Impossible. We can't make insane goals. You make goals that are going to be hard, but not goals that are going to be impossible and are going to make you starve yourself. We're not doing that. We're not kids.
No.
Been
there, done that.
Yeah. We're not doing I have to lose weight in this amount of time. Let me go to a sauna and wrap myself and not drink any water and take a diuretic and all that stuff.
I used to walk/run on the treadmill with a pair of shorts, a pair of sweatpants with those sports leggings and a t-shirt, a long sleeve t-shirt and a hoodie.
Oh, we lost John for a second. But I think what he's saying, he would go all out really hard on the kind of the crazy stuff. I did some crazy stuff as well. At one point, I'm not proud of this, but at one point, we got John back.
Sorry. That was weird.
No, that's all right. I was just saying, along with the crazy stuff you've done, at one point when I first moved to LA, I would get up before I'd go to work and work out before work for 90 minutes and then after work for 90 minutes.
Yep.
And on weekends, I would do the whole 3 hours at once.
Yep.
And I would lift weights and then I would run distances.
Yeah.
Distances until my feet hurt. And we're not trying to do the crazy stuff anymore. That's not healthy. It's not sustainable. These are lifestyle things. We're not being nuts. Just, working out a little bit, eating reasonably, nothing crazy. So we don't encourage crash dieting of any sort here. We encourage lifestyle choices, which is what we're trying to do here.
It's really is the diet more than anything, as they always say. So that's kind of where I need to keep a little bit more things in check. You can
work out as much as you want, but like really it's what you eat.
Exactly.
Working out shapes your body, but like your size is like what you eat. And obviously what's your metabolism and like what's your body and like all that kind of stuff. Like everyone's different. Everyone has bodies different, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
well, we'll be checking in every couple episodes and letting people know where we're at.
We will. So. We'll let us know where we are from between, where we are now. We'll do maybe tomorrow we'll do a weigh-in.
Yeah.
And see, and then we'll we'll keep you posted on where we are related to our goals. And most importantly, John, we buried the lead. The loser has to go on an extended several-minute rant about all the reasons the SEC is superior to the Big Ten. So that's not something either one of us want to do. So I suggest we both meet our goals so there's no loser.
Yeah, that would be great because I don't want to talk about anything in a positive light when it comes to
I don't want to. And dude, not only that, it would live online forever.
Yeah.
And people could dig it up and then, people could dig it up and then like be like, see, you thought you used to think the SEC was better,
Yep.
And
well, I also don't, I know I don't want that, but I also just don't want to like find information that I don't want to learn things that I don't want to know, like let me have my narrative. All right. Like that's what I want.
That's funny.
It is right. It is right. It is true.
Yeah, of course it's right.
Yeah. But no, it's good. We'll do that, if need be. We'll try not to let it go too long to save any of our listeners as well. But that's the bet, and neither of us want to do that. So yeah, you're right. We'll both try to make it.
Yes, we'll both try to get there, and hopefully. Plus, I believe that the Gophers play better when I'm in shape. It's a theory I've had over the years, and it's borne out pretty well.
All right. Well, then,
like when we had a down year in 2023, was it their fault, or was I just not on top of my game enough?
So
I don't know.
If you reach your goal, then like we're going 10-2. Like that's just the way it's going to go. College football playoff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's what I think. That's clip that, post it. Awesome. All right. Should we talk football?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Well, Jim Harbaugh, man. Jim Harbaugh, former Michigan coach, current NFL coach, is in some hot water.
Mm-hmm.
So On3 reported that Jim Harbaugh has been added to a lawsuit against Michigan and against a former assistant coach who's accused the assistant coach of hacking into the accounts of college athletes to look for intimate photos, the AP reports. Attorneys claim Harbaugh knew the assistant was seen viewing private information, but still allowed him to coach in a playoff game. Okay. So here's the first thing. And someone reminded me on Twitter, I forget who, it was some guy who's a good guy. On Twitter, I'm trying to remember what his name is, but he made the point that we can't get out in front of this and assume we know what Harbaugh knew or what he didn't know.
Sure.
Right? Because it's Mike Alber. Thanks, Mike Alber. So he's saying if Jim Harbaugh, the question is, does Jim Harbaugh just know that he was accessing somebody's private information?
Mm-hmm.
Or did he know that this guy had downloaded thousands of pictures of hundreds of young women athletes and was viewing their intimate pictures and let him coach anyway? If it's the former, then it's still bad. It's still bad of Jim Harbaugh, right? He should not have, if a guy is under investigation for that, he should not have been coaching at all.
Yeah.
But if he thought, oh, private information, he was looking up somebody's medical history or something.
Sure.
Still not cool. But I think you get mad at Jim Harbaugh for that. You think of him a little differently for allowing that, but I don't think it goes above that.
Yeah.
Just kind of hit negative repercussions in the press and whatnot. I think Jim Harbaugh goes back, he keeps doing his job, etc. But if Jim Harbaugh knew that staffer was viewing naked pictures of unsuspecting, unknowing women athletes through his Michigan, because he had access to a database as a coach at Michigan. I mean, that's really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes Jim Harbaugh immediately a terrible person.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of victims here.
Mm-hmm.
And I sympathize with all of them. They were treated in a just terrible way for him to steal their intimate, pictures and information and look at all that. And God knows what he was doing with that information,
Yeah.
So if Harbaugh knew that, I think he's got to be fired. And I don't think he can ever coach again if he knew.
Yeah.
Do you?
No. I think, in
that's worse than Pat Fitzgerald, man. Like significantly worse.
Yeah.
If it's true.
If it's true, allegedly is what we need to say. This allegedly, this is what may have happened. And so we don't, obviously we don't know, but yeah, I mean, I think if it is, in the world we live in today, like there's no room for that. It can ruin a franchise. It can, cause so many more problems for like, like the owners of, who he's working for. And so I think that's just the way it's got to go. And yeah, and who's going to take a chance on him, after that, it ruins your reputation. It hurts, like I said, everyone you're associated with. So yeah, I don't see how it's possible.
Yeah.
That
said, it's possible, like I said, that he thought that the guy was looking up, he was thinking the guy was looking up people's medical records or something.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if that happened, it makes me think less of Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's a fireable offense or not.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a mark, but yeah, I don't know if then it is. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think either way he's got to be careful.
Either way, he should apologize publicly.
And he should definitely apologize and be like, "Hey, had I known this was what was really going on, absolutely, I would never have tolerated this." But like, he's got to say something. I mean, we'll see when this all.
Dude, anyway, even if he just thought it was private medical information, considering what it turned out to be, Jim Harbaugh needs to apologize for allowing that man to coach another game. He needs to.
Yep.
And Jim Harbaugh's a stubborn guy, so I don't know if he will or not, but he needs to.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree.
It's somebody on my Twitter said the more you learn about Jim Harbaugh, kind of the less you respect him. And that's kind of where I've gotten to between this and the cheating and the everything,
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's really tough. And then there have been times where I've wanted to like him because
he's a great coach.
He's a great coach. And I would appreciate, early on, I really liked how he would talk to the press in some ways.
Yes.
I respected it, but yeah, like the more we're finding out and the more, and look, even if this stuff isn't like entirely true, the fact that it's just things are continuing to be associated with him makes you wonder,
Yeah, dude.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, you can't tell me that certain thing. And I know this is a sidestep and this isn't meant to take away from what's going on with Jim Harbaugh, but like, I still think it's just amazing how tight-lipped the SEC is to each other and their coaches, and that things like this, and not just, I'm not saying something maybe is this bad, but like hazing, like something like Pat Fitzgerald level.
And somebody's hazing in the SEC.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe not anymore after Pat Fitzgerald, but before?
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah. So like the fact that like nothing ever comes out about the SEC is mind-boggling to me.
It's crazy.
And that says something that I don't think that it's because like they run such a tight ship and they're so, benevolent. No, not at all. So anyway.
No, this isn't The Giver where one person has all the memories and everyone else is in the dark. It's not what's going on here. Like the SEC, they all know they are just not saying anything.
Yeah. So there should be repercussions if they find out that there's anything that he has any direct connection.
Yeah. And regardless, Jim Harbaugh should take a beating for this in the court of public opinion. He deserves it.
Yep.
All right, John, should we move on and talk about Tony Pettiti, who raised himself up out of his hobbit hole and deigned to speak to the press?
Yeah. And of course he
Big Ten commissioner, Tony Pettiti.
Yeah, Big Ten commissioner Tony Pettiti finally made a public statement after weeks, months,
I
a
mean,
year.
it felt forever. Like he was
I
letting Greg Sankey set the whole discussion and he wasn't saying anything.
I mean, I feel like I legitimately haven't heard anything directly from Tony Pettiti since Big Ten Media Days last year.
Yeah, dude.
And I'm maybe wrong there, but like nothing definitive from or nothing like of any
Nothing memorable,
substance.
nothing of note.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So this is the first time. I don't know why he's been silent this whole time. I understand, like I think we talked about before, that Pettiti is more. He works. He's a TV exec, and so like he works more behind the scenes. And Greg Sankey is more in the front. He knows how to politic publicly and all that kind of stuff clearly, and setting those narratives. But I think Pettiti coming out and saying something, although it was not to the degree that I would have preferred, I would have liked it had he been a little bit more cutting. But he's doing what he knows how to do, and politic in his way. So what happened is that he came out and he went on the Joel Klatt show, which of course is, a Fox sponsored show. So, he went to a safe space, and Joel Klatt was clearly very kind and, not throwing him any kind of hard balls, but he did.
Of course not. I
But
mean,
he pressed on a couple things, but not
Okay.
like crazy, They talked a lot about playoff expansion. Obviously, that was the main thing, and the committee and where that's going to go from here. And there's obviously at this point in time there is no, and he's confirmed it. He's like that we're not at a point where we're able to make a decision. And the thing that I thought was really great is that he, what he wants is that he wants to move to an access-based model and less of the current selection-based structure.
Right.
That's the goal. So he wants more meaningful.
Make it more of a playoff and less of an invitational.
Exactly. Yeah. And he wants play-in games. He wants, 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4, like 4.
No, I think it's 3 versus 6. And
3 versus 6,
right?
4 versus 5. My bad.
Yeah.
So that's what he wants, and to get more of an understanding of like where the strengths of these teams really are. You don't just get it through a conference championship game. I think he wants to have these kinds of things, which he does want to emphasize the conference championship game. That is something he does not want to get rid of. But yeah, I thought it was interesting with him going through with Joel Klatt that, what his goal is he does want a 16-team college football.
16-team college football playoff. Sorry, people. I'm not sure what's going on with John's. But Tony Pettiti does want the 16-team college football playoff, and Greg Sankey also wants the 16-team college football playoff. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get a 16-team college football playoff.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my internet. I keep cutting out, so I apologize. I'll keep coming back in if it keeps happening.
Yep.
So I know you were just talking about the 16-team college football playoff. So
I was just saying that Greg Sankey and Pettiti are on the same page now.
They are
about wanting 16 teams.
Yes, and it was nice, at least, even though it was put delicately. Pettiti kept bringing up the 9 conference games and how other conferences aren't playing the same amount and all this kind of stuff, which he didn't directly address the SEC, but that was very clear that that's who he was talking about.
Yeah,
which he should.
But the ACC too. The ACC should move to 9 too, especially with the weakness at the bottom of the schedule. They should want that extra game.
I agree. And frankly, like, even though, we all know that it's inevitable with what's also happened with the talks about UVA and UNC being targeted by the SEC that just came out a couple days ago, that they're not long for what they in the form that they currently are. So like, we know that it's just going to continue to be a weaker conference, but I still think that at this time, if you want to compete and you want to be at that level and have the perception that you want to have as a power conference, then you need to have 9 conference games. It should be uniform. It shouldn't just be the Big 10 and the Big 12. No. So, and anyone who continues to talk this BS about how like the SEC is, 8 conference games is harder than the Big 10's 9 is absolutely, they're lying to you. And it's a false narrative that needs to be stopped.
It's 9 more losses for the Big 10 than the SEC. 9 more. Because you play an extra conference game. And there's no getting around that. It's just math.
Yep.
So the SEC, if they played another conference game, currently they're at 16? So it'd be 8 more losses.
Yep.
And they don't want to take those 8 losses. And that's the bottom line, because they're cowards. And they need to do it because these leagues are too big and it's too hard to compare schedules when you're playing 8 conference games and against none of the same teams. You know, you need that 9th conference game to have some so you can have points for comparison among different team schedules.
Well, and it's going to get bigger. The SEC is going to move to add 4 more teams. They're going to probably add UVA, UNC, FSU, and Clemson. Like that's what seems to be the chalk, is that those are the 4 that are going to happen sooner than later, probably in the next two years, 3 tops.
Right.
So both Big Ten and SEC are going to inevitably go to 20 here in a short period of time. So like a 9th conference game is absolutely necessary. And I have heard that Sankey is in favor of that. It's just convincing the coaches to do it and to grow a pair and do the right thing.
Well, they know they're going to get fired more if they go to 9.
Yeah.
Or go to 9. I mean, that's the bottom line. Yeah. You know, those teams that are scheduling 4 cupcakes so that they can win 2, go 2-7 in the SEC and say, hey, we made a bowl game.
Yep.
Well, now you're going to have to go at least 3-6. Sorry.
Yep. Well, and Pettiti,
that's reasonable. 3-6 isn't that good.
No,
you ought to. If the cutoff is you have to go 3-6 to make a bowl game, I think that's to make the postseason. I don't think that's overly harsh on anyone.
I don't think so.
If you can't do it, then you probably shouldn't be coaching in the Big Ten or the SEC.
Yep, I agree. And Pettiti went on to say, this is a direct quote. He said, "I want more teams to feel like they're chasing that opportunity to compete for a national championship. Teams can get hot late in the season. The fact they lose a game early shouldn't disqualify them to play more meaningful conference games as late as possible." So I think that's fair. I mean, we saw Ohio State trip up early against Oregon, and then we saw them, even a little later in the season against Michigan, and everyone was kind of like, oh no, maybe is this really the team? And then they turned a corner, and it was just game over from there, and we all saw what happened. So I think I think it's fair. I think it's a good idea. I think if you're going to,
and they still went 10-2 in the Big Ten. That's still really good. Like, that's not like we're like, oh, they only went 10-2. They went 10-2. You go 10-2 in the Big Ten. I'm going to say this, John. 9 conference games. You go 10-2 in the Big Ten. You deserve to make the playoff. Period. Full stop.
Yep. Well, and I love that he also said, he goes, all wins matter, and they do. Because I think that it's he also said, we believe strongly conference record is like the backbone of all of that. How you play during the season should qualify you based off conference record. So you can't, and that's what if you're referring to, you're looking at Alabama or Ole Miss, the fact that they were 9-3, like that should qualify for something. And you lost to Vandy and you lost to Oklahoma. Like, that's
crushed by Oklahoma.
So this is part of your conference
in the penultimate week of the season. Got crushed by Oklahoma. I think it was 24-3.
Yeah, it was bad.
I mean,
they got embarrassed.
3 points, dude. And you thought you deserved to be in the college football pool. You couldn't. You put up 3 points against a 6-7 team that lost to Navy.
Yep.
And you think you deserve to be in the college football? Get out of here. Get out of here. And Vandy went 6-7 too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay. So
it was just good to see him like step up and say something. And then he finally defended the Hoosiers too. So
good,
which was good that he finally said something about that,
because they've been taking a lot of strays for no reason. I'm sorry. Indiana went 11-2, and the only games they lost were the 2 teams that played the national title game.
Mm-hmm.
They deserve to be in that playoff. And like the fact, I mean, wasn't the final score of that game like 27-17? I know Indiana scored late, but like,
it wasn't like,
come on.
Yeah. They fought back, they
didn't quit and whatever. And like, they didn't lay over and die. They weren't SMU.
Yep.
SMU laid over and died, man.
Yep.
So
I think it's just, I'm glad he finally said something. He needs to keep talking, and not just at Big Ten Media Days. Like, we need him to speak up, because this is what his job is. I'm glad he said something. He made some fantastic points. I think his idea of what should be done as far as the college football playoff and the necessity of the SEC and the ACC as well to go to 9 conference games, I think it's needed, and I think it's right. And I think it's, again, the only people trying to like argue against it are SEC fans that think like, oh, our schedule is so much harder with 8
and
games.
It'll make for better out of conference games because teams won't be eliminated. Like, think of how cool it is Then on the Saturday of Labor Day weekend, we have Ohio State, Texas.
It's huge.
And they could be ranked, 2 and 3 in the country?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's amazing. You're not going to get Ohio State, Texas if it's just if you go to a straight seeding model without any automatic bids, you're not going to get those games anymore.
Yep.
Teams are going to schedule safe out of conference so that they can rack up big wins and look better and win games in conference. You're already seeing Indiana do it, man. Indiana's canceling every power conference team on their schedule going forward. Everyone. They are like, we're not playing those games.
Yeah.
And you don't want to see that. You want to see, I'm glad we're playing Cal this year. You know what I mean? Like, it's fun to see out of conference tilts.
Well, you saw Nebraska cancel Tennessee last year. You know, it's and that's not what people want. That's not what the fans
people want to see them play.
Yeah, and that's what Pettiti was alluding to. He's like, this is what people want. This is what the fans want. This is what the coaches want. So I think it's smart, and I think it's just the way to go. So
that's a Big Ten Ted. He always makes that point too.
Yep. So I think it's funny, or not funny. I think it was great that Joel Klatt pretty much he's on board. He had a whole episode a couple weeks ago about how the 511 is not good. It's like, it's a nice concept, like it sounds good, but if the committee is in like this the ESPN metric is going to be what's deciding it, no absolutely not.
No. And also they want to go to that without going to 9 conference games.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's like, you had 5 teams tied for second place last year. It was confusing and impossible to rank them. That's stupid. Go to 9 conference games. You can add 8 more losses. You can differentiate between the teams or among the teams a little more.
So what it seems to solidify is that the Big Ten is basically like, it's a no deal unless you go to 9 conference games. Like we might consider other options instead of the 4-4-2-2-3-1. You know, like, but like this is, you better go to 9 conference games. Like,
good.
Otherwise,
that has to be a line in the sand. It has to.
The other thing I found interesting, and Joel Klatt was trying to set him up, and Pettiti just totally sidestepped it.
Nice.
Was he referred to the interview last week, I think, with Marcus Freeman, and Marcus Freeman came out stating that, there may be a time where we have to join a conference if the Big Ten and the SEC go to 9 conference games and we're not able to get scheduled, and that's a harder path for us to get to the college football playoff. Like, he just went, and Freeman was like, that's okay. Like, he's actually okay with it,
Of course.
And it's like it's the fan base that isn't, and probably some.
Well, didn't Freeman play for Ohio State?
Yeah. So I think he sees it from a different angle. He understands.
Yeah, he gets it.
Yeah, he gets what it's like to be in a conference, and that it's not a freaking death sentence, and Notre Dame would probably be fine. So
maybe fine, they wouldn't be the best, and that's what they can't handle.
Yes, but they would still have a road to the playoff, especially with the new if they go in the route with the 4-4-2-2-3-1, they would have a
absolutely
route. They could do it.
Yeah.
So I like that he was trying to set that up, and wanted Pettiti to be talk more about it, but Tony Pettiti just kind of was like, oh yeah, well, Notre Dame has a path, they still do. And I think they'll always have that, but he didn't say how they're going to always have it.
Yeah.
But he said they always will. And, I think, again, man, it's just talks are being had. It's going to happen. I don't know when. It may not happen until 2030, but the time is running out, and we're just, as the years go by, it's just getting closer and closer. It's like I've been saying for a couple of years now. It's like the inevitability of Notre Dame in the Big Ten is happening. It may not. It's not about if, it's when. That's all.
You've been saying it for 5 years nonstop.
Yeah.
To the point I've been making fun of you for it not happening yet. But no, you're going to be right in the end. I'm sure.
Yeah. It's just it's a waiting game. That's all. But so far, the chalk, at least right now, for additions to the Big Ten are going to be Miami and Georgia Tech is the latest, and then to get to 20, and like I already said with the SEC, it's UNC, UVA, FSU, and Clemson. So
sure.
And then after that, there's going to be a new media deal, and they'll probably add more teams from there. So
yep, and I bet that's about the time Cal and Stanford go home to the Pac.
Stanford may have a shot at coming to the Big Ten.
That's true. That's true. That's a good point.
especially if Notre Dame has a say in it,
Oh yeah, they want Stanford in.
They'll get what they
and
want.
honestly, I want Stanford in too. I want,
Yeah.
if the Big Ten's gonna go to 20 or whatever, I'm glad that like we're adding another non-helmet school in Georgia Tech.
Yep.
And like if we had 6 teams and 2 of them are helmet schools and 4 of them aren't, that's a decent ratio.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what it's going to end up being, and I think that's when you split into pods and you get the regionality back.
Yeah. You got 4 pods of 6 at that point.
Yep. And I think that'd be great. I think people would actually like that. So, yeah.
And you switch off who's playing your cross pods each year.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go.
Awesome.
So should we move on?
Yeah, let's do it. Should we preview the UCLA Bruins?
Let's do it.
So you'll notice, audience, that we don't have a guest for UCLA and we don't have a guest for Rutgers. It was not because we didn't try. We did. It's really hard to find guests for some of the teams in the Big Ten. They have few people who cover them, and the ones who do cover them are getting paid for it. And people getting paid to cover something don't want to come on our podcast most of the time.
Not all the time.
It's not all the time. And we've got somebody who gets paid plenty of money to cover college football coming on in the not too distant future. But, there are some, we've got a few, actually, I lied. There are people who will come on who get paid, but there are also people who won't.
Yes.
And for whatever reason, we struck out on UCLA and Rutgers people this year.
Yeah.
But if you have anyone in mind that you think we should reach out to in the future, let us know, and we will for sure, do our best to preview UCLA and Rutgers today. Please, if you're listening, let us know where we're wrong and of any suggestions of people we should try to reach out to, next time around to preview. So we'll be back to having guests. I think our next show is going to be on the 7th, so the Monday after this 4th of July holiday. And that'll be Indiana we're doing, so that'll be exciting. And then we'll go on from there. But yeah, so that's the situation. So you're stuck with just us this episode. But John, it's kind of fun to do an episode like just you and me. Like, yes, I love having our awesome guests, but I also love when it's just us kind of,
It is. It's nice. And just to add on to what you just said is like, and give us names of any teams. Like we have some guests lined up for other teams coming up on the pod, but like, if you have anyone that you suggest, like whatever team it might be, whoever's listening to this, whether it's the UCLA Rutgers or, Washington and Nebraska or what, let us know. So we would love to hear it. So any suggestions are welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. UCLA. So we've got Deshaun Foster back for year 2 after going 5-7 last year. Notably, though, UCLA started out 1-5 and they ended 4-2. They upset Iowa, which was a big win for them. So they showed a lot of progress throughout the year and showed they could play, and they were competitive with some of the better teams in the Big Ten. So I thought really it was a really successful year 1 for Deshaun Foster. What'd you think?
Yeah, I thought so too. We talked about it last season. This team did not roll over for anybody. No. I mean, it some of the scores may not represent that, but Indiana was the only one that I thought like they just got, annihilated in.
They weren't ready. It was the first game of the year. They weren't ready. Yeah.
And even against some of these other teams that were like the margin was a little larger, they still fought. I mean, against LSU, they fought. Yep. Oregon, they did pretty good for a while. And then
even Penn State, I thought they played hard.
Yeah, they played hard against Penn State as well. In Washington,
and Minnesota, they played. I mean, I was at that game, man. Yeah. I changed shirts at halftime. It was going so poorly.
Yeah, it was scary.
We ended up winning, but I changed shirts at halftime. Like shirts and hats. I was like, oh, new outfit. We're not playing well.
And it worked.
It did work.
Again, you're the key. You're the key to Minnesota's success.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
No, yeah, man, I agree. I think, look, it was tough. It's always tough coming in year 1. And it's tough coming in year 1 as UCLA into the Big Ten, where you don't know exactly what to expect and how to play in this conference. And it showed that UCLA had some work to do, especially at the line of scrimmage. And so that's really where I saw their downfall or what caused them to suffer throughout the season. But it was good to see that Foster encouraged or got them to continue to fight, and that's a massive thing, I think. And especially in a team that is so, just not, it's not able to compete yet at that level. So if you can see that, I think there's room and ability to grow, and I think that they are going to get better. And I think Deshaun Foster is a good coach. He seems to have proven that he's got something anyways. We'll see how good he can be, but
he's
I think
recruiting pretty well too.
Yeah. So and they got Nico Maliava, and that's a big get.
We're going to talk a lot about that.
So we'll talk about that. But yeah, so overall, man, I thought 5-7, first year head coach, first year in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
That ain't bad.
No, not at all. That's what we got out of PJ first year,
Yeah.
And then he turned it around from there. So good stuff for UCLA. We think Deshaun Foster, who was panned at the time as higher, but like everyone's got to have a first job, and he's doing pretty well for a guy whose first job is in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Press conferences notwithstanding. I'm hoping at media days he's a little more prepared this year.
I assume he will be.
I hope they have, dude, give the man stuff on a teleprompter. Let him read off it, like give him a break or give him cue cards or something.
Yeah.
He's obviously not like Deshaun Foster, I think, can be a really good coach. I don't think he's ever going to be a dynamic public speaker.
No.
That's not his skill set. He was a running back, not a, he wasn't a quarterback. He didn't have to talk all the time. He was a running back, But that doesn't mean he can't be a great head coach.
Yep.
So I just think, the people at UCLA in the comms department need to help him out a little bit.
Yeah.
They hung him out to dry last year.
Yeah,
they need to help him out a little bit.
Yeah. It's not even like what he says, it's how he says everything. Like the guy had like no energy either, from what I remember.
He looked like he just woke up from a nap, man. He was like, it was like an early Keanu Reeves acting a performance.
Yes.
It was like, yeah, man.
So I assume he'll be more prepared.
For sure. All right. So we're going to talk offense, and then we're going to talk defense. You're going to do the offense. I'm going to do the defense, but I will just say UCLA hired co-offensive coordinator Tino Sunseri from Indiana to be their offensive coordinator. So what kind of offense do you expect him to bring, John? And do you think it's going to be as RPO heavy as the Indiana offense was last season? Because Indiana ran more RPO than anybody in college football last year. And it kind of caught up with them against Notre Dame. When it didn't work, they didn't really have, Cignetti didn't really have like something else to go to.
Yeah.
It was like, oh no, we got caught with our pants down and we don't have like an alternate strategy. I think Cignetti's a great coach. Don't get me wrong. But in that one game against Notre Dame, he got outcoached a little bit.
Oh yeah. Now, when it comes to their offense, like, look, UCLA finished 12th in the conference, 3-6 record. I think, and like we already established, they improved as the year went on. They had 18.4 points per game, 328.8 yards per game, and I think with the RPO, I mean, I can see it working. You've got a quarterback, Nico Maliava, who's 6'6", 215.
Yeah,
like he is not a small guy.
No.
Last year he had 2,616 yards, 19 TDs, five interceptions with like a 63.8 completion. So he was pretty solid. Yeah. And I think under this he'll do okay. And I really believe that Javian Thomas, who is a transfer from Cal, I think he has the potential to be pretty solid in running an RPO system. Obviously, I have to believe that Tino Sunseri is going to learn from his mistakes last year.
Yep.
And maybe be able to implement, a couple different wrinkles as the season goes on. And plus, they also have Jalen Berger, who's just a solid running back, which I see.
Jalen Berger. He's still in the Big Ten.
He's still playing.
I thought he was out of eligibility like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I know. We went over this last year, too. We're like, he's still here?
Jalen Berger is
okay.
Good for him, man.
Yeah.
Cash and checks, baby. Living in Westwood. I'm sure it's fun, man. You live the life, Jalen.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's great.
Go get it. Yeah.
So, and I think Nico has some good targets too. I think Quasi Gilmer could be really good.
Yes.
Caden Robinson, I think, is a big play threat. Mikey Matthews, who I think could also might be their returner as well. So like, there's some solid wide receivers there, and Enrico Flores Jr. I think adds some solid depth. He's from Notre Dame as well. So there's some talent there. Losing why am I blanking? He came to Minnesota.
Logan Loya.
Thank you.
They lost Logan Loya and they lost Michael Sturdivant.
Yeah, so that's tough. That's hard to
Yep.
replace. But I think Gilmer and Robinson could be some solid replacements there.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
Titus Mokiao
mhm.
Adamalala.
Wow.
I know. I
Wow, I'm
worked on that one
impressed.
a little bit, but he had almost 300. Quasi Gilmore had 345 yards last year,
Hmm.
and Titus had 294. So he
Hmm.
also did some stuff too.
Yeah.
And then obviously, Mikey Matthews came from Cal. Jaden Wilson, came from Arkansas. So you mentioned those guys, and it seems like
Yeah.
those guys could be really important as well.
No, I agree. And you got tight end Jack Peterson as well. I think we'll see. I'm not certain about him and how much he's going to add to the offense, but hopefully he's a good blocking tight end, and he'll be able to at least help out with the running game, which needs to be more established. And again, last year their running game was awful. I mean,
their O-line wasn't any good.
Exactly. And I think this year they're going to have to. I think they have the potential to be good, or at least solid. Because like you said, they were terrible last year.
Yeah.
They got to be able to protect Nico. I think the talent level has stepped up. Obviously, they just need to gel. They've got at offensive tackle, they've got Cortland Ford and Ruben Unije. Offensive guard, Garrett DiGiorgio, and Julian Armella. Center, Sam Yoon. So I think they've got some experience there, but they've got a couple new guys, and I think their new guys are more talented, but again, we'll see. They got to gain some experience and be able
right
to
tackle Garrett DiGiorgio. That's quite a name.
DiGiorgio.
Yeah.
I wanted to say DiGiorno. I kept wanting to say. I'm like, it just
we're
kept
doing our
coming out
best,
of my
people.
head.
And you know what? Some of the athletic departments are nice and will put out phonetic pronunciations for their names, but a lot of them don't.
No.
And then we have to wait to hear an announcer say it right. And it's God, I love him, but friend of the pod, JR, I hear him mispronouncing names all the time on his show. And he knows, and that's my point, is anybody can do it because JR knows what he's talking about.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when I hear even him mispronounce a lot of names, I'm like, oh, it's just hard because, I think there should be a page on every school's website where you can just hear the player pronounce their own name.
Mm-hmm.
And then it could just be like a 3-second audio clip of the player saying their own name the way they want you to say it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they can't do that for all the players.
I think they should. And
of course they should.
You even heard national media guys calling games that were having problems. They could.
Dude, James Franklin said Drew Aller's name wrong for a year. He called him Alar. He called his own quarterback the wrong name.
Well, remember when people would try to pronounce Ethan Kaliakmanis?
Oh man,
there was multiple people on these national televised games that were mispronouncing his name constantly. I think there was another one too, but yeah, it was bad. So their offense ranked 126 with points per game and 117th with yards per game. So they need to do better.
They need to do better. And sorry people, John is just having some issues today, but I will say that in the O-line, it's really going to be how long does it take to gel? Because they have transfers in Cortland Ford from Kentucky, like John mentioned, Julian Armella from Florida State, and Eugene Brooks from Oklahoma. So I think, John, I was just saying that I think that it's really a matter of how long does it take the offensive line to gel.
Yes, exactly.
Because they've got so many new pieces. What's that going to look like early in the year? Is it going to be one of those things where is it going to be kind of like last year where UCLA comes out of the gates a little slowly, and then as the year goes on, they coach them up and they get better and better?
Yeah, well, I think Deshaun Foster is a good guy to do that. I mean, he understands what it takes to have a good running game and having a good O-line. So I think there's a possibility there of them improving and maybe getting to 6-6 or 6-7 wins is I think possible. And we'll see. Obviously, Nico, we got to see if he can continue to improve as well. So, which I think he can. I think he's got a high ceiling.
Yeah, for sure. Any other thoughts on the offense before we flip over to D?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thanks for that, John. So defense, we've got defensive coordinator Ikaika Malloy. And I had to read a bunch of articles. It's not spelled Malloy, but it's pronounced Malloy. So you're welcome, buddy. I had to read several articles to find the correct phonetic spelling of that. It's his 6th year on the Washington staff. He's a former standout Huskies alum. His 2nd year as defensive coordinator, and he coached D-line and linebackers before he became the DC. The UCLA, the good news is they were top 6 nationally in run defense last fall. The Bruins returned 3 starters on the defensive line and senior D end Devin Ayupio, senior D tackle Siale Taupaki, and senior DN Keanu Williams, along with senior Nico. It's either Davalier or DeVilliers. I want it to be DeVilliers, but I bet it's Davalier. Regardless, it's one of those two. The depth is oldish, if not overly seasoned, in juniors DNs Jacob Busick and Grant Bucky. And senior D tackle Gary Smith provides a lot of depth, along with AJ Fuamaono. D-line should be really strong against the run, right? But John, the question I have is, how good are they going to be in a pass rush? Last year, the Bruins were just 79th in the country, forcing just 22 sacks in 12 games. That flat out isn't good enough.
No.
Can the defense improve the pass rush this year with so much experience back up front? Linebacker, John, there's no way to sugarcoat this. Carson Schlesinger was an All-American, and Kane Medrano was an all Big Ten pick. So you're losing 2 fantastic players at linebacker. Last year, the Bruins were just really good at running things down and stopping teams from running the ball with those linebackers. I mean, those guys were just really tough. That said, Deshaun Foster is really high on the returners, Jalen Woods and John Vons, along with Oregon State transfer Isaiah Chisholm. All 3 will play a lot, although Chisholm and Woods are listed nominally as the starters for now. But I think there's going to be some, I think that's going to we're going to see who plays the best early in the year to see who gets the most snaps, out of which 2 of the 3 of them, get the most snaps.
I have some high expectations for Chisholm. I think that he could really make it be a difference maker next year. But
I think you're right. I think you're right. I think he'll be I think he'll end up being one of the starters is kind of what I'm saying at some point.
Yeah.
Still losing, 2 all-conference caliber players is a lot to overcome. I think the new linebackers will probably struggle a bit early in the year before they get used to their new roles. I think it'll just have to be more of a team effort on D with those stalwarts gone this year. And what does that mean? That means I think that the defensive line has to provide more pressure and disruption, especially in the passing, on passing downs. Mm-hmm. And the secondary is going to have to stay back in coverage because that's the other thing. The secondary returns 0 starters and is full of transfers with veterans like all-name team candidate Brian Threats of Central Florida. Key Lawrence comes over from Ole Miss, Ben Perry from Louisville, and Andre Jordan Jr. from Oregon State, alongside younger transfer Robert Stanford from Miami. I have no idea, John, what this UCLA secondary is going to look like. They could be good. They could be awful. I don't know.
Yeah.
With so many transfers, though, I worry about them being on the same page early in the year. So the UCLA back 7, man, has nothing but question marks. And we're going to have to see them play to get an idea of how things are going to go. I think they're going to it's going to be really important that veteran D-line plays well, especially early in the year, because those guys behind them are taking live bullets and are learning on the fly.
Well, my question is like, how much money left over did they have to get solid transfers in the secondary after they paid for Nico Amaliava and to keep
that was
probably
late
hold
though,
on
man.
To
that was
deals.
After the rosters were already set.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair.
So it wasn't like they took a bunch of money. They didn't lose anybody. Like Nico, I think came cheap because he made so much money at Tennessee, and once he decided to leave, I think he thought there was going to be a lot more interest than there was.
Oh yeah,
Nico did, and I think I think UCLA had actually ended up getting probably a pretty good deal for him, considering he was a 5-star quarterback recruit. All right, on to the specialists. Kicker Mateen Bagani returns after going a rock solid 20 of 24 on field goals last year, John, including a perfect mark from 40 yards and in. Punter Brody Richter transferred, so expect Bagani to be the punter as well. So what I'm saying is They really need Mateen Bagani to stay healthy because he's going to be the kicker and the punter, man. So like you wrap him in bubble wrap. Make sure he doesn't go out and party too hard. Like you can't afford to have anything happen to him.
No.
And then the hope is that Mikey Matthews will be a factor in the return game.
Yeah.
With his speed and acceleration and agility.
Yeah, I expect that.
Yeah, so they should be, they should be pretty good. John, I really think this whole season comes down to two things. Can the massive amount of defensive transfers acclimate quickly? And how does Nico do here? Does he take it seriously? Does he live in the complex? Is he able to build a rapport with his teammates, both on and off the field? John, Deshaun Foster, in my opinion, we've talked about this before, is taking a huge risk here.
Yeah.
If Nico is not the answer, the locker room could turn on him and things could fall apart quickly. Remember, Joey Aguilar reportedly spent 4 months winning over the locker room and was playing well. Mm-hmm. Deshaun Foster threw all that progress away, all that practice away, all those spring ball reps away. He threw them away for a shiny player with high upside. But it panned as a total disaster. I don't see a lot of in between here. And I really think Deshaun Foster is risking his entire tenure on Nico Iamaleava. Because if he doesn't work out, I don't see a world where Nico plays terribly and Deshaun Foster is still the coach in 2 years.
I mean,
do you? Because if the team turns on him, if he plays bad and the team turns on him because they start to think like, oh, well, I like Joey Aguilar. We got lunch together. He took me out. He spent time with me working on routes after practice. And Nico's playing video games and doesn't want to come practice with his receivers. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know. We don't know how hard Nico reportedly threatened to hold out of the playoff last year if he didn't get a raise. So is his focus going to be on being the best teammate he can be and the best leader he can be, or is his focus to get his and that's it? Because if that's his attitude, it's going to be a problem. We're going to see it show up on the field.
Yeah. It really just depends on what Deshaun Foster is willing to tolerate. I would hope that he has had this conversation with Nico and it wasn't his dad kind of problematic.
His dad's the problem. Yeah. His dad's the problem. So
I would hope Deshaun Foster has stated out and drew lines in the sand about this is what's accepted and this what is not. Because it's key. You have one guy like that, it can ruin the entire team. Like one bad apple. Like it can.
Locker room cancers, man. We've seen it happen. And like one guy, it is truly, you have one bad apple and suddenly a couple other guys aren't working as hard. And then a couple other guys aren't working as hard. And then you're getting shelled out there. And then all of a sudden you're Florida State going 2-10.
Yep.
And that can happen just like that, no matter how talented you are.
Yep.
And let's be real, UCLA is not that talented yet.
No.
They are towards the bottom of the Big Ten in talent.
Yep.
So, and not only that, man, here's the other thing. The Tennessee system is really quarterback friendly. It's supposed to be really easy to learn. There are very few reads compared to other offenses. It is a quarterback friendly. It's like playing bowling with like bumpers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's hard to screw it up. He's going to be running a much more complex, complicated offense now. Is he up for it?
Yeah, it's
without a spring to practice. So he's just got summer to learn everything by himself and practice with the receivers by himself and trust that he's doing that enough that come fall camp, they're going to be able to hit the ground running.
Well, we're going to find out a lot and pretty right away too. I mean, they got a tough start. I know Utah wasn't as great last year, but they're a solid team, a solid program.
Wait, hold on. Yeah. Is it time for the schedule game? Is that what you're saying?
We can move into that. I didn't mean to, but I was just going to say we're going to find out pretty early. And UNLV, which was pretty solid too. So we're going to find out where he's at pretty quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do the schedule game. I think we're there. Yeah, man. That opener against Utah. Thursday, I think that's what, Saturday, August 30th. So the Thursday must be the 28th then. So so our bet ends on the 28th.
Yep.
Okay. Saturday, August 30th, Utah, dude. And I also think Utah didn't really have a court. Like the last 2 years, they were kind of waiting for Cam Rising to get healthy, and he never did.
Mm-hmm.
So now Utah has moved on. Now Utah has a new quarterback. And like the Utes aren't used to they're a proud program. They're not used to losing games.
Yeah.
I think that's a very tough opener, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very tough opener. It's at home, but like, here's the thing about UCLA, man. When we played there last year, we had almost as many fans as they did. Yeah. And we were about as loud as they were.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could hear it on TV.
Yep.
You could hear how loud it was. The announcers were like awkward talking about it. Utah is really close to California. What percentage of this crowd is going to be UCLA fans, do you think?
I mean,
70, 75, 80? What do you think? It's not going to be 95.
No, it's not going to be that. I could see 75 to 80 because it's going to be they're going to be excited to see what Nico can do. So I think they'll show up for the first game, and it's against a solid opponent. So,
but you got to think Utah fans will show up for this too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think so too. So I would say, I mean, there could be 15-20% Utah fans in there.
Also, John, this is a 10 o'clock Central kick.
Ugh.
I can already see myself up late pounding Diet Cokes trying to stay awake for this one.
This one might be one that I watched.
That you watch the next morning? That's fair. That's reasonable. All right. So Utah's a really tough opener. I don't know, man. I can't pick UCLA to beat Utah in game 1 of Nico with all those new guys on defense against like Kyle Whittingham has been at Utah almost as long as Kirk Ferentz has been at Iowa. Like, they are a really mature program.
Yeah.
And I just think that in the first games, which are always tricky, the more mature program has the edge. Mm-hmm. And I think Utah has a giant edge because of that in this game.
I agree. I for the same reasons you just stated, I don't see this going particularly well. You know, we might see some flashes, and Nico might show how, because he is a very talented quarterback, you might see some things that look really impressive, but I don't see the consistency at this point in time in the season.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, moving on, dude. And then they have another. Okay. Sometimes, John, I think that some of these athletic directors are trying to get their coaches fired. And when we talk about the problems with the USC program, a lot of them are in the athletic department. Who scheduled a game at UNLV? Dan Mullen comes in. UNLV won 11 games last year. And Dan Mullen comes in, who's a very good coach.
Yeah.
And he inherits a really good situation from Barry Odom. And you're going to go play at there? You're going to go there and play? Why didn't you make them come play you at your place?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? It's like Northwestern playing at Tulane, man. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You shouldn't ever schedule a game like that.
Yeah.
You should never be on the road playing a group of 6 team ever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. Again, you have a second matchup, 2 games in a row that are going to be very tough. And if you drop this game to UNLV, I think that it's going to be, even if you do end up like kind of rallying towards the end of the season, it's not going to.
People are going to write you off for the year
immediately. Yeah.
Yeah. People are not going to be talking about you anymore. It's going to be over if you come out 0-2.
Yeah. Even knowing that UNLV is a solid team,
it doesn't matter though.
Yeah,
John.
It's not going to matter. No.
So. If you start out if you lose 2 non-conference games, people are done with you.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
That's all she wrote. You get 1 non-conference loss. That's it. All right. So we think, I think though, that said, I do think UCLA should have a talent advantage. They should be able to gut out a win against UNLV.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're 1-1 at this point. And then they host New Mexico on off a short week. And that is the first game that screams to me a comfortable non-conference game.
Agreed. Yeah.
So hopefully, I think UCLA is probably 2-1 coming out of non-conference play.
Yeah.
Which is better than they did last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, or actually, no, it's not. I think it's the same. But regardless, that puts them in a position to still be competitive. But yeah, that Utah game, I just don't have a good feeling there. All right, John. Then we have a really big game. But the good news is UCLA has a bye week to get ready to go to Northwestern and play by the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, that is a must-win game for both teams.
Absolutely.
Must win. Like, if you lose that game and you're UCLA or you're Northwestern, you are looking down the barrel of a really long season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's a scary one, I think, right? Like I don't know if that's how you wanted to start conference play. I think you'd rather have played Penn State first and figured out how good you are or are not, and then played Northwestern.
And you're playing in late September on the lake, which is always dicey. The weather can change in a heartbeat, so that's always a little scary. But again, and we'll get to Northwestern at some point. But there's a lot of question marks there. I personally, right now, want to pick UCLA to win that game, but I think it could get a little scary. It could be a little dicey.
You know what I think it comes down to? Who's better, do you think? Javion Thomas at running back for UCLA or Cam Porter back for yet another year for Northwestern? I want to say it's Javion Thomas.
I do too.
Yeah.
And look, man, I think Cam Porter had a lot of promise his first year or two.
But those injuries, man.
And he just never
got the juice back. He never got the juice back.
No. So I have a better feeling about Javion Thomas. I just do at this point. So yeah, I think the offense is going to be better. The defense, other than the defensive line with UCLA, I don't know. I think Northwestern's defense is going to be better though than UCLA's defense, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, they will for sure will. But I don't. Northwestern doesn't have any skilled players I trust.
No,
including the quarterback.
Nope.
So I just think that I've got I've got UCLA winning this game.
Same.
Okay. So we're saying UCLA is 3-1, which is not too bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a decent start. Then it gets hard.
Yep.
Then they host Penn State. Penn State's a national title contender. They have everybody back. They have the running backs and Katron Allen and Nick Singleton back. They have Drew Aller back. They have a lot of Dennis Sutton and a lot of defensive players back. They have the two most expensive coordinators in America. What I'm saying is I just don't think this one's going to go great.
I don't think there's much reason to discuss this. No, that's a loss.
And I think, a Penn State like Utah, I think will probably show up. Well, actually that's a long trip for Penn State fans. So they probably won't show up in force. But I still think Penn State's gonna roll in that one.
Well, I have to believe there's probably a lot of Penn State fans in the LA market.
So I'm sure
they'll show up. But yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So that'll be 3-2, and then you've got a really important game. You've got an 11 a.m. start at Spartan Stadium playing Michigan State. Man, I don't know what to think about this game, John. I think it's gonna come down to your boy Aiden Childs versus Nico Iamaleava. No, I just really think so because I'm not convinced that they can ride Javion Thomas and beat a Joe Rossi defense in year two, just running the ball. Because if I know Joe Rossi, he's going to do whatever he can to make you not run the ball.
Yep.
I think this is a Nico versus Aiden Childs, and I think this is who's got it, man? Who's the better slinger? Who's got better weapons? You know what I mean?
You know who I'm gonna pick. So
wait, hold on. You think Michigan State has better receiver? Well, actually, they probably do have better receivers than UCLA,
they do.
Don't they? With Nick Marsh and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. And it's on the road too.
It's not easy to play at Spartan Stadium, man. And it's early October.
Yeah.
I think at this point Jonathan Smith has a more solid game plan, and I think that they've now shored up a few places where they needed to
Yeah.
fill in last year. And I think Aiden Childs, again, I haven't seen it, I know that, but I just think I trust that he's going to take another step. And they have superior wide receivers, man. And if Aiden Childs is on, I think he is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, dude. No, you're right. The fact that they have Nick Marsh, I think, is enough for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Quasi Gilmore could step up. Mikey Matthews could be dangerous. Jaden Wilson could be really good. It's a lot of could, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of could, and not a lot of we know. And I don't trust Nico either. I just don't trust him to work hard enough that, like, I think in the first half of the season, I don't know. He could be a guy who plays a lot better as the year goes on.
Yeah.
Than he plays early on. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. So if UCLA drops this game, then they're 3-3 halfway through the year.
Yep.
The good news is then they host Maryland.
Yeah. There is that. Yes.
Yeah, and Maryland. Not to spoil our Maryland preview, and Maryland is the biggest dumpster fire in the Big Ten right now.
Yep.
They have surpassed Purdue, I think, for the worst roster in the Big Ten, and they are hoping to God that a freshman quarterback is the answer for a team that doesn't have an offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Yikes. That scares me, man, and a team that doesn't really have much of a defense either. So I think UCLA, and this is a home game for the Bruins, I think UCLA takes it to Maryland a little bit. I think they get out a lot of frustration in that game. I think they win by 2 scores.
I agree, and I think this is where Nico could possibly start to gain that momentum and really start looking like the quarterback, the 5-star that he is. I think that's kind of where things may gel a little bit with him and the receivers, the offensive line. Halfway through the season, and against a team like Maryland, he can really show out. I don't know if it's going to be a total blowout, but I think they're going to be in control the whole time.
Yeah, so that puts them at 4-3. Then they got to go to Bloomington to play the Hoosiers.
They're going to want some revenge from last year.
They're going to want revenge. I don't know if they're going to get it.
I don't either.
I really like Indiana skill players.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot. From Fernando Mendoza to bringing back Elijah Surratt and the rest of those receivers to didn't they bring in Roman Hemby from Maryland too?
Yep.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
They've got a lot of talent there.
They got they got some ballers over there. I'm worried about UCLA's secondary against Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how well that matchup is going to go.
Yeah, I just think, again, we've talked about it. Like, if Curtis Rourke can play as well as he did without an ACL, I think that having Mendoza, if he's fully healthy, which we expect, I just don't see it. I think that they could get absolutely demolished.
No, I mean, there are people who think Mendoza could be a second round, like first or second round draft pick next year at quarterback.
Yep.
So, like, they really stole one from Cal there.
Yeah.
Really stole one from Cal there. It's, eventually Kurt Signetti's going to have to develop his own quarterback. Eventually.
At some point, yeah.
But not this year.
Nope.
No, not this year. So that's 4-4 then with a loss to Indiana. Then, John, the next game could be the difference between whether they have a shot to go bowling or not.
Yep.
Hosting the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Who will
travel they up. Have a bye.
Yeah.
They have a bye before Nebraska comes to town.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that could be an upset alert special.
Well, this is going to be Deshaun Foster's test to show us how good of a coach he is.
Yes. Can he outcoach Matt Rule in a game where he's going to be at a little bit of a talent disadvantage? But also, man, I don't believe in Nebraska's running backs. Yeah. So if the secondary has come around by then, if you can stop the passing game, I'm not sure Nebraska's going to be the best running offense.
Yeah.
So, like, this is a winnable game, especially at home, especially coming off a bye and at home.
I mean, the Husker fan base is going to travel well. They'll take any opportunity to fly out to LA.
Oh, they'll overrun. I mean, you're right.
Yeah.
It'll have a neutral site feel like a lot of UCLA
Yeah.
games for sure.
But but it is a winnable game. I agree. And this really goes. This is going to be, in my opinion, on Deshaun Foster and
Yeah.
whether or not he can outcoach Matt Rule, which I think is possible. Like you said. So
I've got this like. I'm leaning like 50. Sorry, I interrupted you. Finish what you were saying.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. I also like you mentioned the running backs. I'm not sold on their defensive line on Nebraska either. So I think that I got to see it first. But yeah,
this is later in the year though. I do think Nebraska will be acclimated by then, but so will UCLA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I really want to pick the Bruins here. I really do. I'm leaning like 55-45 Nebraska.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's really a toss-up. I can't make a decision right now.
Okay.
Definitively, I don't.
So we'll call it a coin flip for now.
Yeah,
we got them 4-4 with a coin flip right now.
Yep. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
All right. Then they got to go to the shoe and play the defending national champs.
Yeah, that's easy. Okay.
By now, Julian Sand will have played 9 games and will have plenty of experience.
Yep.
God knows Jeremiah Smith might have like 1,000 yards receiving. This is no offense, UCLA, but I think this game's over like by the end of the first quarter.
Yep.
On the road in the shoe, could be a night game because UCLA is not as much of a draw TV wise as some other teams in the Big Ten. So like you could be playing in the shoe at night against the defending national champs.
Yep.
That one could get ugly. So we've got a loss there. So we've got UCLA 4-5 with 1 toss-up, and then they host Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And, dude, that's another one where I think Deshaun Foster has to prove it. Washington has a really good trio in quarterback Damon Williams, running back Jonah Coleman, and wide receiver Denzel Boston. But by this point in the year, I think UCLA will be running the ball well. I think they've got good talent there. I think their offensive line's pretty good and will be pretty good once they get acclimated. Has the defense come far enough, and in the secondary specifically,
yes,
and at linebacker, to stop Denzel Boston and to slow down Jonah Coleman? Because I don't think you can stop Jonah Coleman. No. I think you can slow him down a little bit. I would lean Washington here a little, but this feels coin flippy to me.
Really?
I think it's a home game for UCLA, right? I don't know if Washington's going to be there in force. It's not like the Big Ten where it's like a trip to LA is something new for them, right?
Yeah.
So I think it'll feel like a home game. What does that Ryan Walters defense look like for Washington at that point? Is he trying to play press man with guys who can't play press man?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's done that before. You know? So I don't know, man. I think it's coin flippy. I think UCLA has a chance in this game. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, I think they have a chance, but to me, the talent in Washington's offense is just insane.
All
and
right.
I don't. And again, like I just don't think that there's the talent in the secondary with UCLA to withstand that.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so we'll give UCLA a loss there.
Yeah.
So that puts them going into the last game of the year. What are they at? They're at 4-6 with 1 coin flip.
Yeah.
So let's say, for the sake of it, that the Nebraska game they won. We'll just say they won.
Sure.
This game at USC, it could be for a bowl trip.
Yep.
Just like it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
And man, depending on the kind of season USC is having, there could be a lot on the line for both teams in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the pride of Los Angeles always, but also USC could be playing for bowl contention, or if you believe the national pundits, a playoff spot, which I'm not ready to go there. But that's what the national pundits think.
Yep.
Right. And so we could have, a playoff adjacent, we'll say, USC team and a UCLA team desperate to make the postseason for the first time in a couple years. And
also, just another point, we're talking about Lincoln Riley as a head coach.
We are talking about Lincoln Riley as a head coach.
And is it Maeva or Longstreet? That's
my question.
What we need to know.
Because if it's Maeva, man, I give UCLA a real chance in this game.
Yep.
You could force some turnovers, whatever. USC is going to throw the ball more. They're not going to run the ball as much as they should. We know that because Lincoln Riley won't do it.
Yep.
So UCLA could be the team running the ball and controlling the clock, shortening the game, maybe force a turnover or two.
Mm-hmm.
I can't pick them to win it, though.
Yeah.
I got to see them win it. I got to see them beat USC again before I can, under Deshaun Foster, before I can pick them to beat USC.
Well, and they're at the Coliseum, and I just think the talent advantage that USC has is just a lot compared to UCLA.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
So we have Deshaun Foster going either 4-8 or 5-7.
Yeah.
That's not great.
No, not in your second year. That's not acceptable.
Not in year 2.
No.
But if they could upset Michigan State, that could be a bowl game.
Yeah, and which is possible, know. And look, it's a rivalry game as well with USC, so anything can happen.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
God, the more I look at it, the more I hate that Utah game. Because think of it, they would be playing for a bowl game if you took out Utah and put in a more winnable game there.
Yeah, I agree.
Does UCLA want their football coach to fail all the time? It seems like they want their football coach to fail.
It does. I
don't get it. I feel the same way about Northwestern, man.
Yeah.
With that sending David Braun to Tulane is like, you want to fire him, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, thank God that we have an AD who doesn't schedule he scheduled one unwinnable game, but that's in the 2030s almost, or one quasi unwinnable game, but that's in the 2030s, and I'm not convinced that those games are ever gonna happen with Alabama. But I like that he's picking. He's like, let's not ruin the season out of conference.
Yeah,
let's pick teams that are it doesn't mean you're gonna win them all, right? But let's pick teams that are beatable, and and it's worked out really well. But some of these other schools, man, the schools that are rebuilding, the Purdue's, the UCLA's, the Northwesterns, the Marylands, you got to stop scheduling all these tough non-conference games. You have to stop doing it. Purdue, what are you doing playing Notre Dame? What are you thinking? You're crazy.
It's an old rivalry game, so that's why. But yes, I know. It's still crazy.
Yeah, dude.
So, yeah.
Right.
Well, should we move on to Rutgers?
Let's do it.
All right.
I'll put it out. Let me put up I'll remove that, and let me put up the Rutgers one.
Did we talk about Rutgers, though?
Yeah. Oh, I guess we can talk about them first and then put up their schedule. Yeah,
sure.
Let's do it. All right, Rutgers. Greg Schiano, great coach who came up a little short last year relative to the expectations they had. I'd say they had high expectations due to Kyle Monangai and an allegedly great defense. However, they lost Mohamed Toure to injury before the season start. And let's be real, nobody they replaced him with played nearly as well.
No.
And that was really the problem. The running game was good. The passing game was still more miss than hit with Ethan Kaliakmanis, although he had a couple of good games, that first half against Minnesota when we didn't blitz him for no apparent reason, which I'll never understand. Corey Heatherman, as long as I live, you caveman, what were you thinking?
You blitzing against every team.
Every other team, and you decide to sit back and play coverage against, I don't. Yeah. I'll never. Whatever, let's move on. Anyway. So Greg Schiano, he's done a really good job. He's taken a program that was a dumpster fire and been a pretty consistent 6 fringe bowl team. Let's win 6 games and try to win 7 in a bowl game kind of team, right?
Yep.
He's gone pretty consistently to bowl games, done okay in them, although they had a big lead last year and dropped the bowl game, which is pretty rough and sort of a microcosm of their whole season against K-State. But veteran offensive coordinator Kirk Shiraka returns for year 3 at Rutgers. He has been all over as a DC with previous stops at Penn State, Minnesota, Western Michigan, Delaware, Rutgers, Richmond, Princeton, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Shiraka is a steady hand who knows what he's doing. I'd say he still relies a little too heavily on the RPO for my liking, but his teams play good, fundamental football. So, John, what are your thoughts? We'll go offense first, or I guess overall thoughts on Rutgers as a team, and then we can switch to, you can segue that into how you feel about their offense, Kirk Soraka.
Well, I mean, as a team, yeah, like this is a solidly led program. I mean, Schiano is a fantastic coach.
Yeah.
He's just working at a very difficult job.
Yep.
Rutgers is hard to win. So I think he's doing fantastic there on bringing that program up. It may be small increments, but it's still moving in the right direction. Kirk Soraka is solid. I think he's a solid OC. I think he works really well with Schiano.
He's devastating off of bye weeks, man. He will pick you apart off of a bye week.
Yeah, you give him time to prep and you're screwed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, dude. You really are.
Yeah. So I think overall, I think the program is in a good place. I really do. I'm not entirely sure whether or not they're going to be as good as last year. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they were just as good as last year and they win 6-7 games. I think that there's some depth there in some good places. I think they've replaced a couple good people. I know Kyle Monangai was like,
a god
amongst running backs. He was incredible.
He was really good.
But I just have a really good feeling about Antoine Raymond. And
he's
CJ
good,
Campbell
man.
Jr. Like I think Raymond he could explode onto the scene this year. Just I don't know if he's going to be as powerful as Monangai, but I think he's got the quickness and the shiftiness that Monangai didn't have in some instances.
Right.
And I think he's got more top end speed than Monangai. So that's kind of what I see possibly for their running backs and replacing, such a massive amount of production that Monangai was able to give to Rutgers. Ethan, can he keep building his confidence? He had 2,696 yards last year, 18 TDs, 7 interceptions, completion percentage of 53.9. It's not great, but it wasn't terrible.
I mean, 54. It's not good.
It's not good.
It's on the very lowest side of okay.
Let's just say he looked more competent last year than he did at Minnesota.
He did significantly more competent.
I'll say that. That's really where I guess I can lead into. But
I also think Soraka simplified the offense for him a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and then when you got a guy, running back like Monangai behind you, like it's easy to just make yourself look a little bit better too.
Yeah.
So, but really with him, it's like I think his ceiling is a lot higher than what we've seen. It's all between the years, man, as we've talked about for the last 2 years now. When it comes to Ethan, is like, can he keep building that confidence? Can he relax? Can he not lose his cool? And when he doesn't, he can be on fire, man. Like he can throw ropes. And
he can throw ropes. He can't throw touch passes, but he can throw ropes. Yes. And that's why he doesn't complete 65% of his passes because he can't put any touch on the ball and he can't arc it and put it in like layer routes. Like he can't layer balls in between. It's got to be a straight line frozen rope. Yeah. And you gotta scheme it up so that Ethan can either do that or throw a deep ball.
Yeah.
Those are the two things he can do.
Yeah.
And you got to make the offense heavy. You got to make it so that he gets to make those throws more often than not. Because if you ask Ethan to throw a bunch of screen passes, if you ask Ethan to layer passes on top of each other, it's just not going to work. I was just saying Ethan can't really throw like a screen pass effectively.
No.
Like that's just never going to happen.
No, he can't. But we're going to see. He's got to go back to the running backs and talking about CJ Campbell Jr. is I think that there's a possibility of having a running back that could catch the ball, but can Ethan get it to him? I mean, this guy has great pass catching ability. Mm-hmm. He's potentially a wide receiver lining up as a running back. He came from FAU. He had good numbers there. I think he's really fast. There's some potential to have anher wrinkle in your.
So we got some speed in the backfield. We got some deep speed with those two guys this year. Sounds like
you got your power runner, who's very shifty with Antoine Raymond, and then you got some solid speed with Campbell Jr. So I think it's possible to have I think the backfield, even without Monangai, is going to be pretty darn good and pretty darn deep. So and then moving on to wide receiver, I think the starters are solid. They lack some depth, but I think the starters are solid. I think Ian Strong is great. KJ Duff is solid. DT Sheffield from North Texas put up some really good numbers. Kenny Fletcher, I think, is a little underrated, and I think he can do some things. And plus, you do have some, I think a solid depth piece is Ben Black. But overall,
is he going to be something yet, though? Is he ready?
Exactly. That's what we don't know. So
right.
Ian Strong is going to be a great go-to guy. He's really solid. He's super reliable. I think him and Ethan are going to continue to connect on a lot of passes, and so he'll help Ethan look pretty good along the way. And the offensive line, you got offensive tackles Taj White and Tyler Needham. You got guards Brian Felter and Kwabena Asama, and center Gus Zilinskas.
Well, and let's not forget, man, don't bury the lead. All 5 starters for the O-line and the tight end in Kenny Fletcher.
Yep.
They're all back.
Yep.
So those are all returning starters.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that bodes well for the running game, especially.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I think like Rutgers should be tough running the ball early in the year with such a coherent offensive line.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think they're going to be good. To me, it all comes back down again. I think like we talked about last year, we probably said the exact same thing. Is Ethan,
Yep.
If he can take that next step as far as his mental abilities, they could be pretty dangerous. Better than what I think people are expecting them to be.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right. Any thoughts about Kenny Fletcher? How much of a threat in the passing game do you think he is, or is he just a blocker?
I think he's a solid blocker. I mean, I think he's going to be able to be implemented into the passing game. But again, you're talking about touch passes. I don't think they're going to throw him deep or anything like that. They'll probably throw him out on some drags or some hitches. But I don't think he's going to be doing anything crazy, in my opinion. So
no, I think you're right. I think you're right. All right. Other thoughts on the offense before we flip and talk defense?
Nope, not right now.
All right. So defense, I have to say that the co-DC for Rutgers, and it looks like, when there's a co-DC, it looks like there's a main one and a lesser one.
Mm-hmm.
The main DC for Rutgers appears to be Rob Smith. Rob Smith has been all over as a DC, from Arkansas to Minnesota to Rutgers to Duke and now back to Rutgers. And he has not done well really anywhere. Smith infamously got fired mid-season after fielding one of the worst Gopher defenses in living memory. However, as soon as Smith was fired, the defense immediately began playing at a top 25 level, which persisted in the following years as well. Smith was an albatross holding the Gophers down, and that's why he got fired mid-season by PJ Fleck, a guy who doesn't like firing anybody. Rob Smith, runs overcomplicated schemes, which demand too much of the players, which causes guys to play slow. And in football, playing slow is death. You don't always have to be right in football, but you have to be fast. I think it's the height of hubris that Greg Schiano thinks he can give Rob Smith such an important job, and it's just going to be okay. And it's just going to be okay because it's his defense, and it's his baby, and so it's going to be fine. Zach Sparber will be co-DC. My guess is that's in case Smith doesn't excel at calling the plays. They can go to Sparber if Smith is a mess. I feel like he's an insurance policy for Greg Schiano. It's also possible Greg Schiano would call the defense himself if Smith struggles early in the year. I could see that. I could see him either firing Smith or not firing him, but just demoting him and saying, I'm going to call plays. I'm Greg Schiano. I'll call the plays now. So, man, do you have thoughts on the Rob Smith thing? I just can't believe I can't believe there's a Big Ten team who has him employed as a coordinator. It blows my mind.
You and I are on the same page. We were both there. We saw how horrible it was. We experienced it, and
they couldn't, dude. I saw guys, it looked like Bo Pelini against Wisconsin every game. There were guys they couldn't, when guys went in motion, they had no idea what to do. You'd see guys pointing at different ways, and then the gap, then they'd run a simple play and there'd be nobody in the gap and it would go for a 50-yard touchdown. And you're like, why? Like, this didn't look hard, and it wasn't. His guys couldn't make reads. Is this Schiano trying to be like Nick Saban rehab? Like, yes, it is.
Like, that's what this is to me.
It's the Greg Schiano school for wayward boys.
Yes.
Oh man.
You just can't convince me that Rob Smith is all of a sudden going to turn into a great defensive coordinator.
No.
Dude. I think that Shiano is just like he's offering him a job. Maybe he feels bad for him, something like that. But Shiano's going to be the one calling the plays, man. Like
Do you think so? I don't think so, man.
No.
I don't.
Okay.
Don't you think he would say? Well, we got to pay attention to media days then.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell. You know what? I'm going to get in Ryan Burns' ear on his website, and I'm going to be like, you need to ask Greg Schiano who's calling the plays on defense. I need to know. I need to know. I have to know. We got to find out, or if we can find out anyone who we know going to media days, maybe JR's going this year.
Yeah,
if
or
whoever's
Big
going
Ten
to
Ted,
media days,
yeah.
or Big Ten Ted, anyone who's going to media days that we know, we're going to be like, you got to ask Schiano who's calling the plays on defense. I got to know. I got to know. Because I think it's Rob Smith. Because if he was calling the plays himself, like when Ryan Day took the play call, would call his own plays, we knew in advance. Everyone said, "Oh yeah, Ryan, yeah, I'm calling the plays."
Yeah.
So like, I gotta know. So I'm really curious to see, because I bet it's Rob Smith to start with at least.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of how long that lasts.
Sure.
So the good news on the D line is they have some continuity from last year with returning contributors Zaire Angoy and Kashawn Griffin. They're expected to step into starting roles after working as bit players last year. The DN should theoretically be better with transfers Eric O'Neill from James Madison and Bradley Weaver from Ohio University. It's really important that Rutgers be able to generate a pass rush with a four-man front because the secondary is entirely new.
Mm-hmm.
You want to sit that inexperienced secondary and those linebackers back in coverage most of the time rather than having them blitzing and having to go man, in my opinion. Because I think that's dangerous with a bunch of guys when you don't know how good they are or how well they mesh as a unit. So I think it's an absolute key that Rutgers can get pressure with their front four. And if they can't, I think they're going to be in a lot of trouble. That brings us to the secondary. 5 new secondary starters. Yikes. In Penn State transfer Cam Miller alongside returners Al-Shady Salam and Bo Masco. UNLV transfer Jet Elid will join returner Kai Sanders at safety. And then the linebackers are in flux too. Dariel Diabome is set to start after being thrown into the fire a year ago, but there are lots of young guys and a new position coach in the co-DC, Zach Sparber. So, I mean, it's a little bit like UCLA. The linebackers and the secondary are totally inexperienced. Yeah. And I think in the first month of the season, you're going to see that. Yeah. I think it's going to show up. And I think that's going to be a problem for them early on, until those guys get acclimated. I mean, that's a lot, Greg Schiano runs a complicated system. It's not, and now Rob Smith is the guy teaching it to him, and you've got 5 new stars in the secondary. I don't know, man. That doesn't seem like a great recipe in the first month of the season to me.
I mean, dude, and not to go back to, to go back to this again, like, I mean, Schiano, we just called him a great coach and a smart guy.
He is a great coach.
This is a huge risk.
Yes.
This is the Nico Maliava of UCLA. Like, this is, to me, is like, you're taking a massive risk on a very important piece of your team. And I don't know, man, it could either work out okay, or it could blow up in your face.
Either way. And we don't know.
No,
we're not going to know until like a few games in, like 3 or 4.
Yep.
All right, moving on to the specialists. Rutgers returns kicker Jai Patel and punter Jacob Anderson, both of whom have been reliable. Rutgers, though, only returned 14 kicks all last season. So they could really use somebody to step up at kick return and punt return to improve that stat, because yikes. John, I think this team will be similar to what they've been offensively. I want to believe it's a Greg Schiano team, and they're going to be fine on defense, right? On offense, they're going to run the ball. They're not going to be afraid to take shots down the field in the passing game. But Ethan Kaliakmanis has a ceiling to what he can do because of the way he throws the ball, because of his work ethic, because of all that stuff. So, I think this is still going to be a run-first team. I think they're going to go as far as the running backs can carry them and as far as the defense can take them. I feel really good about the running backs and the running game and really the offense. This is kind of a weird Greg Schiano team because I find myself feeling better about the offense than the defense.
Same. At this point, yes, I agree. And really because of that, the depth in the running back room, and for me, and their offensive line, and the tight
the
end.
offense, having 5 stars back, 6 with the tight end, that's a big
huge
deal.
Yeah. So I think they're going to be solid regarding that, but it's that secondary, man. Are they going to get picked apart?
Yeah. I think it might be rough. I think the first, those first few games might be tough, and it'll be interesting. Well, should we play the schedule game?
Let's do it. Let's hit it.
All right. Let me just pull it up quick. Oh wow, John, we're pulling close to our weight in a long thing. You're all welcome for the long podcast, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we got 20 minutes to go through this. Yeah.
All right. Rutgers 25 schedule.
Cool.
Perfect. All right. So start out with Ohio University. Ohio is a solid MAC program. They're tough. I do think Rutgers is going to be able to run the ball on them. And I think it'll be a tough game. It'll be a first game, right? There'll be mistakes. There'll be some turnovers. But ultimately, I think Rutgers will outmuscle Ohio. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. Plus, it's at home. It's a 5 p.m. game, so it'll turn into a night game. And Scarlet Knight fans, they do show up. They do pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Been to a few games. Yeah.
All right, so we'll give them 1-0 moving into week 2. This is where it gets complicated. They play Miami of Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And this game scares me because what does Miami, Ohio under Chuck Martin have? They have a great passing attack always.
Yep.
And I forget. I think the Gabbert, the younger Gabbert's out of eligibility, right? I think they're on to a new quarterback.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Is there another Gabbert? I mean, I don't know.
Oh my God. I hope not. But they were, I guess they were fun. I guess if we don't have to play them, it's not that big.
They were fun. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I think it's going to be a tough game for Rutgers. I think we're going to find out right away what that secondary looks like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're going to know early on, is the secondary ready for the Big Ten play? Or is this a situation where we have to be worried about it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think this is going to be a good test for sure. Yeah. But I think their offense should be able to take care as long as they're healthy. Like you said, I think with the running game, I think they'll be able to put up points and be able to move up and down the field.
Yeah, I think they'll win that game.
Yeah,
I do. But I think it's going to be hard though.
Oh yeah,
I think it's going to be one where Rutgers is where they feel lucky to have gotten to where they are. So that'll be, I think, a little scary, but we'll say Rutgers wins that. Then they've got Norfolk State. I mean, that's not a game. That's a scrimmage.
Yep. That's a win.
Yep.
So 3-0 at this point.
3-0 Rutgers. Things are looking good. And then they host the Hawkeyes. And man, I don't know, dude, if Iowa isn't just a better version of Rutgers this year.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think the offensive line is a little better because Iowa's got a great offensive line. I think the running backs, Rutgers, I might give the edge, but it's close.
Mm-hmm.
But Gronowski against Kaliak-Manis, I mean, Gronowski's definitely the better quarterback.
Yeah.
That said, Rutgers has the better wide receivers.
Yep.
So I think this is a close game. I think it's hard fought. I think we see a lot of gum chewed between Kirk Ferentz and Greg Schiano, just a lot of gum chewing on the sideline. Both those guys chomping away like horses. I want to pick Rutgers in this game, but is this not the kind of game where Iowa wins it? Gets strings together like 3 turnovers which they get they get 17 points off of, and then they beat Rutgers, by a score or 2.
I think they do. I think they do what they've done before to Kaliak-Manis, and they get after him. They make him, he's eventually seeing ghosts out on the field, and he makes a mistake, and that's the game ending. That's the way it ends. Rutgers might look like they have a shot even up until the fourth quarter, and then Iowa puts it away with the interception and maybe a pick 6 or something. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. All right, so we've got Rutgers 3-1, 0-1 the Big Ten. And then they got to travel to Minnesota. Now, Minnesota is going to be bitter about this game because they had Rutgers beat last year before a late fumble did them in.
Mm-hmm.
So, and with the Ethan thing, it's makes the Gopher coaches and players upset that they lost that game.
Yep.
Not only that, Minnesota gets a bye week to get ready for Rutgers. So the Gophers will have 2 weeks to game plan Ethan and this running game and try to make it so they can't run the ball and Ethan has to throw the ball to beat them. If this game were in Piscataway and Minnesota wasn't coming off a bye, I would think it was kind of coin flippy.
Yep, same.
But it's in Minneapolis and the Gophers get a bye. And I just think, man, I think it's going to be a rowdy crowd. I think the student section is going to have signs making fun of Ethan. I might bring a sign making fun of Ethan. So like, I think Minnesota wins that game. I think Minnesota wants it bad. And with 2 weeks to prepare, I think the Gophers, PJ Fleck is notoriously great off of bye weeks.
Yeah.
His teams play really well when you give him time to prepare.
I also just think Minnesota has the talent advantage, dude, on both sides of the ball. Like, they really do. So, I like you said, too, I think we'll just come in prepared and play.
I think it's a game where our experienced D-line stops the run. And if you stop the run against Rutgers, they're in tough. It's hard for them to do much.
Yep. Yeah.
And on the flip side, with a brand new linebackers in secondary, I think you get Darius Taylor and AJ Turner the ball in space a little bit.
Yep.
I think you're going to see, I think it's going to be, I think both Minnesota and Iowa beat Rutgers probably by 2 scores.
Yeah.
I think they're hard fought games, but I think that's what happens. So then we got Rutgers at 3-2 going into the bye. And then off the bye week, they go play Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm glad they have 2 weeks to get ready. And Kirk Soraka, he's good off the bye. He'll scheme up some early points in that first half, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The question is, can this secondary, are they acclimated by now to the point where they can slow down Denzel Boston a little bit?
Yeah.
Because they have to. They have to do it. They have to slow down Denzel Boston. They can't let Jonah Coleman run crazy.
Or Damon Williams.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's the thing, man. Damon Williams is such a threat to run himself that makes it hard because it's 11 guys you got to account for in the running game.
Yep.
That's tough. I want to pick Rutgers in this game. I really do. I don't think I can.
I can't. I really can't. I think Washington has too much firepower, dude. They just do.
If Rutgers wins, it's because they play better than Washington up front.
Yeah.
And they run the ball and they shorten the game and maybe force a couple turnovers. And it's doable. It's doable for Rutgers. I don't think this is for sure a Washington win.
Yeah.
But where we sit now, I'd give Washington the win. So that's 3-3, Rutgers. And then they got to host the Oregon Ducks.
Ooh.
Oregon, man, the way they've recruited in the transfer portal and in the regular recruiting the last 3 years has been crazy. Yeah. I mean, they basically overnight went from like Penn State to being Ohio State level.
Yep.
Like just flipped a switch, which is crazy. Flip the money gun, turn on the money gun, and
I mean, it's Oregon. This is a loss. I don't see how they can get around this.
Nope. I don't think so either. Then they go to Purdue. And I feel a lot better about that game for Rutgers.
Yeah.
I don't think Purdue is going to be able to stop them from running the ball. I think this is a Greg Schiano special. I think they play defense. I think they run the ball. I think they get out of Ross Aid with a win.
Yep. Same. Agreed.
So that brings Rutgers to 4-4. Then they got to go on the road again to play the Illini.
I don't see it.
I don't like that matchup for them, man. I don't like that it's on the road. I don't like Luke Altmaier versus Ethan Kaliakmanis. I don't like the fact that I think Illinois with 8 guys back in the secondary, including all 5 starters, I think they're gonna pick Ethan Kaliakmanis off multiple times.
I agree. I totally agree.
So yeah, I don't think that one's gonna go great. I think they're gonna lose that one by 17 probably.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Was that let's see, we went win, loss, win. So that's 4-4, 4-5. 4-5 with 3 games left. Then
Maryland.
They host Maryland. There you go.
There you go.
Rutgers is going to beat Maryland.
Yes.
Rutgers
agreed.
is better. They're going to run on them. They're going to, I think Maryland might score some points, but I think Rutgers will force some turnovers. I think they'll beat Maryland. I think it'll be comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings them to 5-5 going into the last 2 games of the season. And unfortunately for their bowl hopes, they have to go to the Shoe and then they host Penn State.
Yep.
And I think, for my money, I think that Ohio State and Penn State are the 2 best teams in the Big Ten.
Yep. Hands down.
So having Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon on this schedule is really rough.
Yeah, it's brutal, dude. And I'm sorry, like Washington and Illinois, like
Washington and Illinois and Minnesota and Iowa.
Like, dude.
Yeah, dude.
This is a really hard schedule.
It's a really hard schedule.
And to be honest, like 5-7 with that schedule is not actually terrible.
It's not terrible.
Yeah,
it's not. Against a schedule that hard, going 5-7 is not terrible, and no one should try to put Greg Schiano on the hot seat.
No,
or anything like that.
No.
He's a fantastic coach. It's just a matter, of sometimes it's not your year based on the news. Until the Big Ten expands and adds more non-helmet schools, there's going to be every once in a while you're going to have that year where you have to play 3 of the top 4 programs in the Big Ten.
Yep.
And unfortunately for Rutgers, that is this year for them. And unfortunately, the 2 teams they miss, Michigan, is the team that looks the most beatable of the 4.
Yep.
So
absolutely,
it is what it is. I mean, Greg Schiano is a fantastic coach. I think Rutgers is going to be a competitive team. I just think the schedule is not lining up for them this year.
Agreed. Well,
but here's the thing. These guys will get experience this year, go 5-7, and they'll be back ready to be better next year.
No, I think so too. And is this Ethan's senior year?
Yeah, Ethan will be gone too. So
right.
they'll be able to upgrade at quarterback theoretically between now and next year too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well,
yeah.
We'll see. It's interesting.
But Rutgers, that said, they'll be competitive. And if you pull an upset, you beat Iowa or Minnesota or Illinois or Washington. Maybe you make a bowl game.
Maybe.
If you win 1 or 2 of those games, you got a shot to make a bowl game.
I think it's possible with Greg Schiano. I think he's good for usually 1 upset a year, or getting darn close anyways. So yeah.
What if he beats Iowa?
That'd be great.
Can you imagine Kirk Ferentz in that press conference if he lost in September to Rutgers?
Yeah.
Or if he beats Minnesota?
I don't want to see that.
I don't even want to think about it.
No.
But it's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. And then we're talking about Rutgers in a whole new light.
Absolutely.
So UCLA and Rutgers, man, they're both going to be competitive teams. How long does it take the new guys to acclimate? How do they deal with those tough schedules?
Again, man, no team in the Big Ten is bad anymore. It's just not. I mean, Maryland may be withstanding.
Maryland might be, but basically nobody.
Yeah, I think even Purdue might be better than what people are expecting.
Barry Odom's a great coach, and he brought in 1 million transfers. They're going to be competitive this year.
Yep. So,
yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, that was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll head us out. And if you want to find We Live for Saturday, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. You can find us on Twitter at We Live for B1GSat. You can find Mike at Alibaba26. You can find me, John, at Norwegian Gopher. And you can email us, We Live for Saturday, B1G@gmail.com. Please follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We really appreciate it. Retweet, things like that. We would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, and we've been getting new followers every single one of these preview episodes. So welcome to all our new followers. We're excited to have you on board. And hopefully we'll get some more. If you're a new follower from this episode, you can go back and check out our other previews. We've already done Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and
Ohio State.
And then so everybody, I'll just say, hey, happy Independence Day. I hope you all have an awesome weekend. I hope this 2-hour nearly long podcast gets you through driving to see your family or whatever you're doing. You know,
Be safe.
everyone be safe. Don't remember the firework. Don't hold it when you light it. Light it when it's already set down. Set it down first and then light it. That's important. Don't blow your hand off. That'd be a tragic story for your family for the rest of your life. No one needs that. Yeah. And we will see you in our next one on July 7th. We'll be previewing Indiana. So get pumped about that. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Everyone have an awesome holiday.